Let me summarize a few things about myself in part and my habits as a child. As far as I'm concerned, a negative state for the normal eye, completely normal eye, is a direct result of what the child's doing. Period. End of story. That doesn't mean you're going to take prevention seriously when you're 2050. But what convinced me was Jacob Raphaelson and that statement about the printer and his myopic son. Myopic meaning 2050. He probably could have gotten out of 2050, but the printer was ignorant of science. And you can't do anything with that because the printer will fight his child wearing a plus for near. Okay? End of story. That's not going to change. I met Raphaelson about 1967. My sister's children were somewhere between the age of 1 to 5. And however they fought it, I think they were owed a second opinion, a choice, like the printer and his son. But no choice can come from an optometrist because the printer himself was ignorant of science. And I'll leave that one up to you. Of course, I wrote a book, How to Avoid Nearsightedness, meaning how to get out of 2040 or 2050. Right? It's highly technical. It can see all eyes as dynamic systems at birth, definitely engineering science, where you can measure a refractive state, but not an error. And that's dynamic control systems, and to the extent that you can understand that, you might be able to prevent. Now, most people are chicken, have fear, don't want to do anything. It's easier. Indeed, my immediate relatives, I'm sure, thought slight nearsightedness, oh, that's a medical problem. Medical will take care of it, meaning I don't have any responsibility, or I'm not going to do anything about it. And that will consign you to permanent myopia. Now, I have no problem getting Minds lenses from Genie Optical after I've verified things with that variable focus lenses. So let's say that I'm 2040 to 2050. That's basically DMV. I can pass the DMV, but I would not want to let my eyes remain at the 2050 to 2060 level. I've got to do something about it. Keep in mind the printer and his son. Based on science and statistics and the data in this book, our eyes go down half diopter per year just being in school. If you're not understanding that, you're not going to be successful, because what that means is prevention's long term. Okay, picking a plus lens. I wouldn't do anything until I read my book. Even if you decide to do nothing in your 2050, you're still the printer. You don't know what's going on. So let's talk about the printer's son. Okay, as a Snellen up reading 2050. Raphaelson had him wear a +1, and that will work. The Snellen will be slightly blurry, but gradually it will clear. But the parents got to understand that. Kids are going to be wearing a plus lens and it's long term. Raphaelson may have felt you could get out of it, but he ignored long term. And as long as they learned, he couldn't do anything else. He could help his own children because he knew what would happen if they did not wear the plus. And he's the only person who understood it that way. Couldn't help the public. So let's talk about plus lenses. These are +2.5. A little smudged. Okay. Yep, 2.5. And if I don't use a cell phone, I just use a 2.5 and read at 20 inches. Now, as far as seeing what's going on, let's say 2.5 I push it away and I find just blur at around 22 inches. If you're slightly nearsighted, that would probably be around 18 inches. But you're really checking to see what's comfortable to read with. And again, you'd push it away until it's comfortably, it's slightly blurred, pulled in. And that's how you tell, much like Jake Steiner, what lens is right for you, plus lens, when you're 20/40 or 20/50. In the drugstore, they sell plus, I think, 1.5 to plus 3.25 or so. So if you're 20/50, you should get plus 1.5. And again, push away till it just blurs and pull it in. And depending if you're slightly nearsighted, let's say half diopter, you'd probably use 1.75 and find just blur was at 20 inches. Now, my old habit as a child, this business is wrong, should not have done it. But that's what the printer's son was doing, and he paid the price for it. I'm sure his vision just went down and down and down when he got that minus lens. Read my book. We got to learn from either Rupa Wong, who's permanent prevention for her kids, and Jake Raphaelson, because this problem solution must exist before you get to much deeper than 20/40, and it's long term. I'm wearing plus long term. I do one other thing. Again, this is just me. If at 20, I'm reading at 20 inches, okay, you'll find me 2.5. If I'm doing the cell phone, put one on top of the other. It looks silly, but the concept is at 10 inches, that's minus 4 diopters. I find that I can read easily at 10 inches with what are basically 5 plus 5 diopters. There again, push it in and out, and you find where blur begins to occur and pull it in. So I learned all this from Raphaelson's The Printer and His Son. If you're an engineer and at +2 and understands analysis, I don't insult anybody because it took a long time to write a book like this. And again, I'm totally dependent on the person's intelligence and motivation to do this. If this is all new to me, I would probably start with a week plus until I got comfortable doing it, understood it, and did it, and keep on doing it. And I've been doing this now for at least 10 years. And of course, I have the Snellen up, and I check everything myself. I don't blame optometrists. I blame the ignorance of the public. And I can't do anything about that. Frustrates me. I can't do anything about it. So these videos were my sister's kids. They're now approaching 60 years old. And all I really did was talk about the printer's son and engineering and science and the consequences of ever starting to wear a minus lens, which means you take responsibility to always pass the DMV test, which runs between 2050 to 2060. Take responsibility. Well, that actually means something. If you start wearing a minus lens, it's over for you. The one exception, of course, being Jake Steiner's followers. And that's amazing. But it seems always you go from -5 to -1s, and you can't do better than that. And Steiner was a success, except for that issue. He doesn't understand the concept of the eye. And I don't brag about it. I just say it'd be nice if we could teach our kids to wear the plus, or engineer scientists entering a 4-year college, because that's what, and they would still make a choice. They would be reading 20/40, and they'd know -0.5 diopter per year if they don't do anything about it and take responsibility for themselves to always pass at least the 20/40. I would expect a person dutifully wearing the plus who understands the concept to get to better than 2040. And that should be the real target. On the 2040 line, draw a circle around the 2040 line and see what you can accomplish. Thanks for listening. When I left Raphaelson's house, I realized you're probably going to waste your life if you do this. And so, but it was worth it for my immediate relatives, one way or the other. At least they had a fighting chance versus no chance at all. Thank you. Add your own thoughts.